Okay, well, welcome to our show today with Jon and LoriAnn. And here's my reminder going off on my phone
Uh-huh.
that it's time to start the show.
It is. That's true. It is time.
So, Jon, it's the new year. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year to you as well.
Yeah, we get to
And to
start,
all those listening.
right.
So,
We get to start a whole fresh year. And,
mhm,
I always say to myself, I don't need a new year to start fresh. You can start
mhm.
fresh every day, right where you
Oh,
are.
absolutely. Yes.
And one of the things that Jon and I wanted to discuss today is New Year's resolutions, goals, promises. Like, what is the difference
Yeah.
between that and what helps somebody? Because we all know you set a New Year's resolution, it lasts maybe an hour, maybe a few days,
Hmm.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe a couple months, but we set these or we say we're going to have these goals. And a lot, there's times you can reach your goal or what's the difference between when you say, I promise you? So let's discuss that for a minute.
Well, I think moving towards that is beneficial because when you look at the two other words, resolutions and goals, okay, I think the word resolution has a huge negative connotation to it because we all know people make New Year's resolutions. And the number one New Year's resolution is to start working out at the gym and lose weight, right?
Yep,
And inevitably, we've all heard the stories that last 30 to 60 days.
right.
So you immediately already coined the term New Year's resolution with a failed attempt at something.
Yep.
I think the term goal is the same way.
I have to just
So,
just say a little bit right there on that New Year's resolution and the gym. My
yeah.
husband and I go to the gym every single week, and we have for years. And it
Mhm.
is like we almost want to just skip this first week at the gym because there's so many people there. And we can really actually um about 2 weeks, even 3 weeks in, it's almost like all the same regular people again. And there might be a few new ones that hang around, but it really is within a couple of weeks. So, okay, I just wanted to say that because as you are setting yourself up for success, like what Jon just said, don't set yourself up for failure.
So are you saying, let me clarify, are you saying that 2 to 3 weeks into a new year
Mhm.
is when the beginning resolution people that started a new resolution that year fade out and
Yeah.
everybody that had been going for so long come back and it's back to a what you would call a normal?
Yes. We have
Wow.
we have watched this every year, and that, I mean, that, through COVID, nobody could go. But,
Yeah.
and then when we all came back, but it's been pretty consistent now. This first couple of weeks, even right at Christmas time, I just said to him, wow, the New Year resoluters are like getting out here a little bit early.
Mm.
So
Oh goodness.
it 100% is true.
Yeah. So, what's your take on the word goal then in this context?
So when you're going to set a goal, this is just what I've noticed. You set a goal, there are more people that when they say I set this goal and then they reverse engineer it, that's a lot of the wording or the context around
Mm-hmm.
setting a goal. Set a goal, 3 months out, and then you're going to reverse engineer it, and these are the little steps that you're going to do every day. Put your tennis shoes on the first day,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
get your workout clothes on, like those are your little baby steps, whatever, to
Mm-hmm.
attain your goal, right? Well, we see people that are showing up at the gym and their goal is to come to the gym every day, a lot of times those guys last longer. But when it's, I'm going to lose 100 pounds and I'm going to go to the gym every day and I'm going to start eating right, and those are your goals that you set, it's so hard. I mean,
Hmm.
that your brain trying to take on, I'm going to lose 100 pounds, I'm going to go to the gym every day, and I'm going to start eating right. It's that to me, craziness.
So do you think the term goal is not defined specifically enough?
Yeah,
It's too much
exactly.
of a broad range to look at?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I get that. Okay. Keep
Yeah.
going. I like this. Keep going.
So now when you say, I promise. So this year I tried it out and I thought, I'm not going to make any of these crazy resolutions, crazy goals, anything.
Mm-hmm.
I did say to my son, my New Year's resolution, if I'm going to set a New Year's resolution, would be to smile every day. If I'm going to do
Very
it, I'm
cool.
going to set myself up for success.
There you go. Absolutely.
So, but the promise that I made to myself was that I would do 10 push-ups a day.
Hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
promised myself, no matter what, no matter how I'm feeling, no matter what time of day, I didn't say I had to do it before 10 o'clock or right when I get out of bed or whatever. I just said, I promise you, your body, LoriAnn, you are going to do 10 push-ups a day. And because I haven't done push-ups for a long time, my push-ups might not be the exact form that I would like them to
Mm-hmm.
be. I might
Right.
be doing girl push-ups or, take a little break here or there, but that was not my promise to myself. My promise is 10 push-ups a day. So, now if you listen to those three things, resolution, goal, and promise, what are you more likely to do?
Yeah. More likely to do promise. Yeah. Absolutely.
And your brain, and you know this, I know that you know this,
Mm-hmm.
John, your brain wants to fulfill a promise because historically you have not broke your promises before.
Exactly.
Because most people will not promise something that they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to do.
Yeah.
If they
Yeah.
say, I promise you,
Yeah. That is true. That's very true. That kind of goes back. We talked a while back about softening your stories,
right?
and we use that a lot in our work. This is kind of the same thing, but it's softening your words.
Mm,
I think your subconscious reacts to a promise differently
yes,
than it reacts to a resolution or a goal.
yes,
A promise is, I promise to try my best to do dot 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 dot.
yeah,
That just makes, I think, that allows your subconscious to actually hear that better,
hmm,
understand that better, and line up with how to make it happen.
yeah.
You know,
It makes it possible. I looked up
mm-hmm.
what the word promise means, and it said, a
Mm.
promise is defined as a declaration that something will or will not be done. A goal is defined as the result of achievement toward which effort is directed. So, with that definition, that from a business perspective, it gave another one and it just said, from a business perspective, a promise is customer centric, whereas a goal tends to be revenue centric.
Mm. That's a good point.
And this is where we get ourselves into trouble, it says.
Absolutely, yes. I would
So,
totally agree with that.
yeah, so in business, because that's what we're talking about, success for teens here and how to be successful. When you're promising something, it's customer centered.
Mhm.
When you're goal oriented, it's revenue centered. And there's nothing wrong with being revenue centered and setting
Oh, no.
some revenue goals and all of that.
Uh-huh.
I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong about this. I'm just saying, what are you more apt to accomplish with a
Right.
goal or a promise or a resolution?
Yeah. And you can take that personal as well and go the promise being customer centric. So the promise is more self centric
Yeah,
instead of like the goal is revenue centric. That's outside of you. That's uh, a a product of the work you do.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay. So the goal is the revenue, which is the revenue is the product of the goal that you work on in your business. Where in the personal, the promise is more of self centric
Yeah,
and taking care of self first, which is what we've talked about in the past.
yes,
You know, so yeah, I like that. That's a good way of putting it.
yeah. When I wanted to do what the contrast was with it, um, between the promise and the goal. And but like we're saying, the other aspect of this is, where is our brain really going to take us, and where is it
Mhm.
going to help you perform at your best? So when you say things like I promise, when my 12-year-old son, when he was 12 years old, he was saying some things to me, and I think I've brought this up in one of our other episodes, but it's so important right here in this part that we're talking about. Um, he had said something, and there were several things that had happened over several months. He'd say something to me, and I wouldn't believe him, and it happened over and over and over. He'd say these things, and I wouldn't believe him. I wouldn't believe him. Finally, he just said, "Mom, I don't even want to talk about anything because you don't trust me and you don't believe me." And I said, "Well, here's the thing. You hadn't proven to me that I could trust you in what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So let's define that between us. So what you're going to say to me, you promise is going to be the truth when you talk to me and when you say things to me. You promise that it will be the truth.
Mm-hmm.
In return, I promise that I am going to believe every word that you say." And he looked at me and he said, "Deal." Because he
Cool.
was so sick of it.
Yeah.
And I was so tired of it too. And instead of just battling with each other and battling it out, we made a promise. And to this day, he's 24 years old. To this day, I 100% believe what he says to me.
You built a common ground
Yes,
based on those promises that you made to each other.
exactly.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And it still holds true. There's times he'll say, "I didn't want to say anything to you because I," he said, "I didn't want to tell you the whole truth." And so I just said to him, "I respect that."
Yeah.
Because there's been times that he's just said only just part of something,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise I would have gone into more questions and and he's like, I just didn't want to have to deal with all the extra questions that you were going to ask me." And I said, "Well,
Mm-hmm.
that's fair. That's
Yeah.
100% fair,
Yeah.
because he knows that when he tells me something, I 100% am going to believe him." So there's
And he 100% has to come through.
right. Yes, I mean, we've made that promise to each other,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
That when you can do that with people, I feel like all humanity changes in your
Yeah.
whole circle of what you're dealing with. Because even
Yeah.
his friends would watch the way that we would have these conversations back and forth,
Yeah.
and they would be like, "Wow, I'd never tell my mom that." And he'd be
Mhm.
like, "Well, but she knows. Oh, you
Yeah.
know, she
Yeah.
trusts me." And so,
Yeah. That is so cool, LoriAnn. That's a beautiful way of setting the things up to where it becomes, well, first off, there's accountability there.
right.
Okay. You made the promise. He made the promise to you. You made a promise to him. So now there's accountability between the two of you
Right.
to make it right
Yes.
and to keep your promises.
Yes.
And, it's so funny how, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I bet if you ask 100 people, would you rather break a promise or would you rather break a goal?
All one
99 are going to say a goal.
Yep.
No one wants to break a promise.
No, you don't.
It's just one of those things that you feel so secure about that you want to stay with. You want to make that right.
Yes.
So,
I was at a training just in this past October, and they talked about this.
mm,
If you want to get something done, make a promise to yourself because your brain is not going to back down. It will find
right.
every angle it can to make it happen for you when you
Wow.
make a promise.
That is
That
so
doesn't mean
cool.
you're going to be successful in everything.
Yeah.
And that was part of the training.
Hmm.
But your brain will do everything to make it happen instead of sabotaging because you've set goals before and you've broke them. And
Yeah.
your brain in there, your little filing system that's inside your brain in there,
Yep.
it pulls out that file and says, "Yeah, she always breaks this goal. So
Yeah.
we'll give her about 10 days and then she's not going to do it. She always breaks this goal." So
Yeah.
it's this I've heard it said, already, always listening inside of your brain. So
Yeah.
it's this already, always listening of that goal. And we think,
Hmm.
this time we're going to do it. We've got willpower. We've got, we can do it this time. But
Yeah.
there's that piece in your brain that's like 175 times she has broke this before.
Yeah.
We're not going to let her do it again. She's
Yeah.
not going to ever do this.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a subtle way of putting that because we do that all the time, don't we?
Yeah. And so our programming in there, and
Hmm.
it's so subconscious, you don't even know it's happening.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
So he challenged us in this class that I was taking, he
Uh huh.
challenged us to make promises and then see how you go forth because then that listening inside your brain and that filing system is like, this
Hmm.
is a promise. That means
Yeah.
she's serious.
That's interesting. That's real interesting. I'd worked with a guy a few years back, another coach, and one of the things he brought up was, um, and I totally bought into it. He asked me, he says, "Do you remember where you were at 9/11?"
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I do.
Mhm,
I could tell you exactly where I was. I could even tell you the color shirt I had on.
mhm,
Okay. And he said, and it's the same kind of principle about what you were talking about. There's a file folder up here.
mhm.
Well, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of images and words and things go to our mind every day. What he said was, though, if there's not an emotional bond to that thought or to that image, then, up here is this little two-drawer filing cabinet with a little old lady sitting in front of it. If there's an emotional bond tied to it, she puts that file folder in the file cabinet and you'll remember it. You'll bring it up later, just like I did with the color shirt I was wearing in 9/11.
Mhm.
He asked me what I had for lunch 3 weeks ago. I had no clue because there was no emotional bond to it.
Right.
In this context that LoriAnn and I are talking about today is making a promise, I believe, and this is my own personal opinion, but I think there's a lot of people out there that would buy into it as well. When you make a promise to yourself, you automatically put an emotional bond to it.
Mm.
Where a goal is just another one of those things that are out there. A resolution is just another one of those things that are out there. But there's no emotional bond tied to either one of those two. So they don't get into the file cabinet. They get set on the floor next to it. But
And
the
we
ones
have a
that we
lot of
can,
files on the floor.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, the floor is covered with file folders. But there's a few in that file cabinet. And if you can put in, if you can tie an emotional bond to that thought or that image, it'll go into that file cabinet and you will bring that up just
Right.
like this every time. And it's so much easier to do that when you make a promise to yourself, because that is an emotional bond between you and your subconscious. And you'll bring it back and you'll hold fast to it and you'll work harder at it.
Right.
But like you said earlier, when you do that, things come to you
Yes.
over and over and over and over and over again to help you not break that promise.
Yes.
And that is pretty cool. And I like that. And you know, I think that's an easier route to take. Goals are hard.
Yeah.
I mean,
It
goals are just hard.
They are, and it's good to put goals down,
Mm-hmm.
put a list of things that you want. You don't have to put the word goal by it,
Mm-hmm.
but just like you can make those yearly things that you wanna attain and achieve, and I
Mm-hmm.
still think that's really healthy to, like, make a list of wow, my husband and I had this big, huge whiteboard, and so what we did a couple weeks ago is we put everything on the whiteboard that we wanted in 11 different areas of our life, in our
Mm-hmm.
characteristic, in our intelligence, in our spirituality, finances, life, goals, physical health, so we went through this whole list of like 12 different areas and we put them up on this whiteboard. And then in all those areas, we put what we wanted to do in there. Some were his more than they were mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then some were mine more than his. And then some of the things were together. We wanted to do a lot of these things together. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of this whole encompassing of our marriage, our love, our friends, our family, our travels, business, all of the different things that we wanted
Yeah.
to accomplish. And we didn't say one thing in there about goals. We just
Right.
made this list of all of these things that, and there was maybe 5 or 6 things under each category. We didn't, do real extensive,
Mm-hmm.
but it solidified it in our brain because we're laughing while we're doing it. We're like
Yeah.
telling stories about, visually like seeing ourselves doing some of these things
Uh-huh.
together.
Yeah.
We created this experience
Right.
around putting it all on the whiteboard. And
Mm-hmm.
you can do this with sticky notes. You can do
Yeah.
this with, whatever you've got
Mm-hmm.
available to you.
Yeah.
But I would say do something like this. My husband's is a dentist. At his business, they have a chart and it's in the kitchen in their break room where they have morning huddle every day. And when they go in there, and whatever day of the month it is, they look and they see how close they are to their goals, how close they are to their revenue, how close they are to their treatment plans, new
Mm-hmm.
customers,
Mm-hmm.
existing customers, old customers, like there's running numbers. So they have these goals, these monthly, weekly, like, what are all these? So they do talk in the form of goals in their business.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they maintain those because they're doing that daily huddle, checking in, looking on the board, looking, adding up their numbers. What you track, you attract.
Yes, very
And
true.
so all of these things work that John and I are talking about with you
Mm-hmm.
today.
Yeah.
The whole purpose is, like he said, to take that emotion and attach it to that so it gets filed in that filing cabinet with
Mm-hmm.
that little secretary in your head.
Yes.
Being able to grab that file, put it in there because it's something that you really want in your life. You
Yes.
really want it there, whether it's in a relationship or emotions that you want to feel, what the kind of person you want to be financially, all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good stuff.
Any thoughts when I was saying that?
No, just 100% true to me. I, you know, there are time and places for goals.
Right.
Okay. But there are time and places for making a promise to yourself. And the sooner you can tie an emotional bond to that promise, I will promise you, you tie an emotional bond to that promise,
Yeah,
you don't have any issues making it happen. It will.
it will.
It will. It's just how the human brain works.
Yes.
I've heard it over and over and over and over and over again. You know, and the story of 9/11 proved it to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what I had for lunch 3 weeks ago, but I remembered what happened. I remembered what I was wearing
Yes.
during something that happened years ago, but it was because it had an emotional bond to me. And I tied that emotional bond to that event. And that event got stuck in my file folders in my file cabinet. And I can bring that out anytime I want now. 20 years from now, you're going to ask me, what shirt did you have on at 9/11? I'm going to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, the whole idea behind, what we're talking about today is, we about softening your stories. Today, it's about softening your words. Don't be so hard on yourself about, I've got this goal, got this goal, I got this resolution, I got this, we know the track record of resolutions.
Yeah.
We know the track record of goals, albeit now some track records of goals are very, very good. If that's you and you can handle those, more power to you. Absolutely. I'm not deterring you from using the word goal. Some of us can, some of us have trouble with it. It's
Right.
okay. If it fits with you, use it. Okay. We're just saying if you have a hard time with the word goal, try out the word promise.
Yes.
Try out the idea of, you know what? I'm going to make a promise to myself to do the best I can this year to make this, and this happen. It's just a promise to do the best I can. Nothing definitive. I'm not going to put numbers out there for it. I'm just going to promise myself to do the best I can and let the universe guide me to making it happen. Sounds like the path of least resistance, if you ask me.
Yes. I like that. We all want the path of least resistance.
I know I do.
Yeah.
Very true. Very,
Okay.
very true.
Well, this has been
All right.
a great show today. Thank you,
Oh,
John. I know
absolutely.
that
Thank you for your time, LoriAnn. I appreciate you heading this up. Uh, you know, I love the work that we're doing. Yeah. And like we've said, if anybody has any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or shoot us an email. Our emails are in the show notes. Um, and we'll answer your questions on air.
I love it. That's been
So
really fun to do that.
it has. It
We are
has.
going to have a dad that had some questions. He's going to join us on Thursday this week. So he's going to join us in a couple more episodes.
Cool,
And
cool.
he's a father of 8 children. So he's right in the mix of all of these
Mm,
teenage years.
yeah,
and
absolutely.
and it'll be fun to talk to him and just have him share a little bit of his insight, what's going on in the teenage world at his house.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Okay, well, thanks
All right.
everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe.
And click
Hello.
the bell.
And hit the bell and all that good stuff.
Love it, John. You always remember that.
All right. Take care.